Hey, Bio2 students, new chapter we're going to start today. We're going to go over the cell cycle, mainly mitosis, meiosis. I know we went over that quite a bit in Bio 1, but we're going to go in a little more depth here. Because if you look at this first slide, the bottom line is it is one of the most important things we do. The ability for us to reproduce kind of separates from living things from non-living things, and that is really what sets us apart. And gives us our uniqueness and the continuity of life for our species to continue on this planet. We have to be able to reproduce not just our own kind to keep the species alive, but we also have to reproduce cells every single day: blood, skin, muscle, bone, mitosis. Okay, so if you guys remember a little bit, in a unicellular organism, division is this basically. Mitosis is how they reproduce. You have one, then two, then four, then eight, and they can reproduce really fast. That's why bacteria use that type of reproduction. For us, it has to be a little more complex. We depend upon it for not just growth and repair, but the development of a fertilized egg and for the continuation of life. So we're able to take cells and divide them up and have them do all these things. Blood does their thing, skin does their thing, and so forth and so on. So it is a very integral part of the life process of a cell. You have to be able to reproduce that cell. Now that's a little more complex than it might seem sometimes. If you guys kind of a little review here, if we're just duplicating genetic material, we're making exact copies of DNA. That's mitosis. And that's how we continue to replace cells that die. We replace cells that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're faulty or they're wore out. And that duplication of genetic material is critical to making more of us, making more cells. Okay. Now, if a dividing cell duplicates its DNA and then it splits into two daughter cells, that basically is how we keep that information the same in every cell in our body. So if I need more skin, I want both skin cells to have the same information. More blood, I want both blood cells all to have the same information. So we're basically, in mitosis, we're just taking a cell, basically it's like going to the Xerox machine and making a Xerox copy and making mass productions of that same cell. Okay. Now we have this term we use, it's called the genome. That's basically the DNA and the genetic information in our bodies. The human genome was supposed to take, I remember back in the day, it was supposed to take 100 years to complete. We did it way ahead of time, like 90 some years ahead of time, because technology increased and we were able to do it faster. So when we say genome, we're just talking about this is the genes, the traits that make up that particular individual organism. Okay. Now, what's crazy is DNA in a cell is packaged in the chromosomes. We know that. These little gummy worm looking things here. What's crazy is the only time that you see chromosomes is when a cell is dividing. The rest of the time, you do not see it in this form. We'll talk about that in a minute. And here's what's a crazy statistic. This is kind of hard to wrap your brain around, but there is 6 feet of DNA. 6 feet of DNA in every cell in the body, times 100 trillion in a human. Isn't that crazy? So we have DNA everywhere. That's why we leave DNA behind everywhere we go. That's why it's very important in crime scene investigation. We'll do a little bit of stuff with forensic science in the next try. And it's just amazing that, a criminal may not leave a fingerprint behind, but they'll leave hair, saliva, sweat, blood, skin, whatever. We leave stuff behind wherever we go, and we can take that and analyze it and find out if a person's been in a crime scene or not. It's kind of crazy. Okay. In every eukaryotic species, that's 4 of the 6 kingdoms. The only exceptions are the 2 bacterial kingdoms. Every eukaryotic species has has a characteristic number of chromosomes. It's not the number that's important. It's that if you want to be a normal, healthy, functioning, disease-free organism, you need to have that set number. So for humans, that's 46. For a tulip, it may be 100. The number varies And that's what is very unique with each type of organism out there. Somatic cells, blood, skin, muscle, bone, we call those the non-reproductive cells. They have two sets of chromosomes, one from mom, one from dad. Gametes, the reproductive cells, sperm and egg, they only have half. If you guys remember that from Bio 1, we get a haploid number, which makes sense because if I got 23 and 23 and the egg and sperm unite and fertilize, then I get the right number. If I don't do that, I'm going to have too many. So that's a very important concept to understand. That's why meiosis is a different process than mitosis, because mitosis, we're just Xeroxing off copies. In meiosis, we got to reduce that chromosome number in half, okay? And this is where it gets a little bit crazy. When you start looking at the complex DNA found in a chromosome, that's where it gets kind of crazy. If you remember, we kind of get stuck on the letter C. I apologize for that. So when a cell gets ready to divide, it's going to come together and form these chromosomes. So let me kind of explain some of those C words if you guys remember this stuff from the Bio 1 days. So we have the whole thing is called a chromosome. One leg or one side of a chromosome is called a chromatid. This gets kind of confusing. In the middle of a chromosome is called a centromere. So you got a lot of C words there. Okay, so let's go over that real quick. Okay, this is a chromosome. The whole thing's a chromosome. If I look at just one side, that's called a chromatid. So two chromatids make up a chromosome. In this narrow waist, the center of a chromosome, that's called a centromere. We'll come back to these terms. So when I go over mitosis and meiosis, you'll see me keep coming back to that terminology over and over and over again. So you got to get these C words down. There's just no way around it, okay? So that's just some background. So a lot of this stuff I'm going over today is just some background information. So to kind of wrap up notes in this first little part, a eukaryotic cell, mitosis divides the nucleus. Cytokinesis is dividing the whole cell. You'll get that information as we go through it. Gametes is what we produce during meiosis. And meiosis yields non-identical daughter cells, only having one set of chromosomes, half the parent. But in mitosis, we get identical daughter cells with the same information. That's the big takeaway if you're talking about the difference between mitosis and meiosis. All right? So hopefully that makes sense. That's just kind of an introductory. I want to get some background information, kind of wake up the brain. You've had all this information before, but we forget it. So we're going to go through all those stages. I do have a foldable. I have instructions on that. So you want to make a foldable because we're going to use that information. I'm going to highlight stuff in your notes. You're going to put it in there. It's going to be a work in progress. We're going to put the color sheets on there from the mitosis part of notes. So be working on that, and we will continue on later. So, hey, have a good day. We'll see you later. Bye.